Hey everybody, I'm Bill Owen of MMPC Tech. Good to see you again. I've got my good friend Jesse here with me.
Hey!
We're going to take a look at Fractal Design's new 304 node ITX case, and Jesse's going to install a system in it too.
Okay, so looking at the case, first things first, looking at the front, it's really well designed, really well finished. What looks like to be brushed aluminum, but this is plastic in the front. The rest of the case is all metal. Has really nice matte finish to it, so it's not glossy. It's not going to leave fingerprints all over the place, unless you have really oily hands and put grease on it. So
that would be me.
So keep those Big Macs away and French fries. Send them to me. Going to the front of the case, that's where I like to start, as this is what will be displayed most of the time. The case on the top has some mesh in the front panel, kind of help you, get rid of some hot air inside the case. Looking at the front again, one of my things that really attracted me towards this case was there's almost nothing in the front, giving it a really clean look. The only logos you see are right at the bottom, Fractal designed, and right what seems to be the power LED and also the HDD activity LED. They beautifully placed the I/O panel on the side, what looks to be a really sleek power switch. You get two USB 3 ports, so yay, no USB 2. I don't know who uses it, at least I don't. Oh, I do. And you get your headphone and microphone jacks, so again, I don't use those, but anybody does. I think they're placed really nicely. If you plan to use this case as a gaming case or on your desktop, I think it will look really good sitting there. Or if you plan to use it the way I do, is using it as a media center entertainment PC, I think this would blend really well with the entertainment center that I have at home. And it's not something that will look like, what the hell is that? It's not hideous. We have a really big mesh here to keep your graphic card cool, so that should not be an issue with temperatures inside. And quick look at the back. This appears, yep, this is a 140 mil fan in the back, so you get 140 mil fan in the back. This right here seems, yep, that is the fan speed control, so it looks like you can control the speed of the fan. Spot for a 2-slot graphic card, which is what most of the people use. And if somebody wants to do an SLI, I would say get a dual GPU card like the 690. Anything like that, that should fit in there without any issues. Here's the power plug-in for the power supply. And from what I know in this case, the power supply sits right here. So here's the mesh to allow the power supply to vent air or intake air, however way the fan is set up. And turning it on the side, looking at the bottom, here's your bottom intake for the power supply with a removable mesh that comes right off. It just slides right in. Missed a spot there.
That could have been a little thicker plastic, just my opinion.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Or maybe use magnetics on the bottom, but it's not bad. The bottom feels good grade metal down there.
Nice thick rubber feet
Feet,
here,
yep.
so your high-end furniture at home doesn't get scratched at all.
Yes, and that also helps with, well, unless you have rabbits running inside, you should not have too much vibration getting out of the case. Hey, you can fit a kitten in there. It's not Intel powered, it's kitten powered. So we got the 4 thumb screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the one thing that Bill and I both agree that we don't like about this case is the fact that if you just want to take the side panel off, you can't. The whole thing has to come off, slide it back, pull it right up.
Yeah, I don't know, I've gotten used to other little cases having individual side panels. Like if I just need to access something real quick, I just want to take off that one panel, I don't want to mess around with the whole thing, and I mean, is it too much to ask? But I also know that that's also what keeps the price down if they stamp just one piece versus individual pieces.
Yes. And I would say the other benefit I see with that design is it gives you, well, again, everything that has a good also has a bad. So we talked about the bad. The good, the way I see it is, the way the layout is for this case, the whole panel coming off gives you really good access from the top. So when you're trying to do a build for the first time, or you're just trying to tweak something, your hands are not cramped in there. Looking inside, there's our fan. 3-pin, nicely sleeved. You don't see the cables inside. And oh look, you get pretty much a 3-fan controller.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I did not know that.
And what I really like is, so you have cables so you can kind of route them or hide them the way you want them, compared to having a hardboard panel somewhere. This is a Molex plug-in.
And it's black too.
It is black. And for people who like to sleeve their own stuff, I would say, yep, that is something that will come out. So if you want to take it out, sleeve it to hide it, or
nice.
not use it at all, it's held in place by 2 screws. You can just disconnect it. Use the motherboard headers based on what motherboard you're using, so that will work. Inside, so here's all your front panel cables. Come on, you get your HD audio. One thing I noticed right now on this, there is no AC97. Thank you. I don't know why we have it. I never used it. You get your power LEDs. You get your so there is an HDD up there, so I'm gonna guess the light is probably split in half. HDD activity light, lamp, whatever you like to call it. Power switch. This case does not have a reset, so again, one of those things, I don't know who uses them. And oh look, this is nice. So if your motherboard does not have a USB 3 header, they have a regular USB, so you can
nice.
Use it as a USB 2 at least, so not be at a loss that, oh, I don't have any place to plug this in. So you get really nice headers. On the other side, we have a nice power supply extension. I think the way they vision that people would do it is you'll have your power supply here, the back here. So this plugs into your power supply, so you don't have to worry about running a fat cable inside. And this cable seems to be perfectly, thick enough for a power supply that one should be using in an ITX build. I mean, I don't expect anybody to put in a 1500 watt power supply in there. If you do, then perfect. So, gunk in there. Inside, I will say the finish is exactly the same as the outside. Mm-hmm. It has a nice matte finish. It feels like really good quality paint job or powder coating, whatever this is. I am not an expert in that. I just like to use stuff. These rails are here. These corners are riveted in. So some people like to take things off. You would have to take those rivets off. The front panel
comes off nice and
pops
easy.
right off. Here's your front panel. Sliding it a little bit back to get some space. They have nice tape on it to protect stuff. And everything seems it's plugged in. So again, if you are one of those people who likes to cover everything in sleeve, nothing wrong in it. I try to do that as much as I can, but I just suck, so I give up. So everything seems it will come off. Here are your activity. Nope, that's your HD, and then these are your LED connections right there. So that is the power. And then what else is there? Where's the... I'm sorry, I'm just curious. I need to know. So this seems to be the power. And this is... Where does this light go? Oh, that seems to be something...
Oh, is it like a tiny little light?
Oh, yeah. Right there. So that's the...
Oh, so it just shines down on your work surface.
Yep.
That's
So
cool.
that's the HDD activity lamp right
courtesy
there.
light.
It is. Ooh, courtesy lamps. All you need is a remote locking. You're set to go. And it slides right off. You know what? These tabs are one of those things. The tabs are so well built that when you try pushing it, you're gonna feel that I'm gonna break it, but no, they did not break. I've had cases where this much pressure would bring the whole cage down. 92 millimeter fans. Weird number. I don't know where you find them. Do you? So.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of choices out there on the market for 92 millimeter fans in the enthusiast realm. I mean, they're out there, a lot of OEM ones. So, you know, if you're looking to get this and you're going to do some customizing and stuff, you probably don't have a lot of options for LED fans in 92 millimeter. I know they exist, but you're not going to see.
Well, with the front covered up, I don't know if anybody's even going to see those LED. If you look right here, this is your power supply support to hold the power supply down, and there's not much space to add anything bigger. So in order to, you know, put a standard fan, 80, 120, anything else, they would have had to make the case either bigger or come up with something else. So I'm not sure if one of these fans go bad. I don't think you'll be able to find it right off of the shelf easily. You might be able to get one from Fractal Designs. Anyways, one thing I noticed, again, really good sleeving job. And other thing, they did not go with any weird colors. They kept it simple, black, to blend with the inside of the case. And you have exactly 3 fans in there. You have 3 fan inputs to control, and perfect. And if you notice there, black and white theme going on there too, which for me, again, I'm a fan of that. I don't know about other people. And again, these are easy to change if somebody wanted to change them. Okay. Hard drives. Now, I kind of like, this is a really cool idea of mounting your hard drives. So again, thumb screws, not tightened that you can't take them off without using a screwdriver. I mean, they are true to the meaning. Thumb screws, they come right off. Each of these can hold 2 standard hard drives or 2 SSDs. Yes, SSD support is built right in. If you look right here, you got your SSD 2.5 screws right there, and you have rubber grommets for your conventional 3.5-inch hard drives. Yep, top and bottom. You can't see the top one here because it's hidden. So to take any one of these off, you have to take 2 thumb screws out on this side and 1 Phillip head in the front. So they all can be taken out if you want to put your SSD or hard drive somewhere else, depending on what you want to do with this case. Or you could just fill all these up with, let's say, 2 terabyte hard drives or whatever size you prefer. Have 6 hard drives going. And again, looking at the way this case is set up, it's gonna bring in the side panel here real quick. If this thing is on, you have air going on the sides, and with the fans in the front, your 6 hard drives, if you have them in, you will have enough cooling there to keep them cool. Plus, hard drives don't get that hot to begin with. So you'll have a decent amount of air moving around those. So you can even use this case as a really good looking NAS. And I mean, your typical NAS gets you about 2, 3, 4 hard drives. This, you can put in a nice board, a full-size power supply, and you're good to go. Okay, so all the components that I'm going to put in this case are laid down here. But before we start, one thing we should point out that in this case, you cannot mount an optical drive. And my hard drive just fell. So there's no place to mount an optical drive. One of those things, I don't use an optical drive anymore. All the games, they're all on Steam. Everything is, even when it comes to installing an OS, there's a lot of good, better USB installation options nowadays, so I'd rather use that. But if anybody is planning on using this case as a media center and use it as a Blu-ray player, that might be an problem, unless you plan on using an external Blu-ray player. 550 watts will be powering a GTX 550. This is my old card in my old build. I'm just going to reuse this one. I picked up an i3 3225. Like I said, this build will mostly be used as a media center, so I don't need an i5 or an i7 and occasional gaming, and I think for LAN parties an i3 is good enough. I picked it up at Micro Center, and along to go with it, I picked up the ASRock or ASRock or however you want to call it. Just don't call it an AS. It has a full 8-pin CPU power, 4 SATA connectors, built-in Wi-Fi, and for $144 plus $50 combo discount at Micro Center. Yes, people, it used to be 40, now it's 50. I think it's a good motherboard, and I'm using some old Samsung low. I don't think you can get any lower profile RAM than this. I had this laying around at home, so I decided to use it for this build. It's a perfect, beautiful RAM. It works really well. These are 4 gig sticks each, so total of 8 gigs of RAM. For cooling the CPU, I plan to use the Hyper 212 Plus, which a lot of people use. It's a really, for the price point, for the amount of, for the kind of cooling you get out of this little guy, well, big guy, it is really impressive. I don't think you can get wrong with this. If you want more cooling, I suppose you could easily mount an H80 in the back of the case. Going back to the case real quick. There's a 140, 120 mount. So you could mount an H80 in the back, a single radiator. So that would mount easily. You have lots of space. When it comes to custom loops, you have to come up with your own ideas. Oh, one more thing. What I liked about this is what the motherboard comes with is a nice little stand for your amplifier for the Wi-Fi, which is a plus for me. I don't, even in my desktop tower, I don't use plugged-in LAN anymore. It's, good old Wi-Fi. Comes with 2. These are SATA 3 6 gig cables, IO shield, and if you look on the board, there's just a DVI port for video. So if somebody does not want to use a standalone card or a PCI card, they just want to power off the CPU using the most awesome, where to go, Intel HD graphics 4000. There's a little DVI to VGA converter if you still rocking one of those old, and if you are, nothing wrong in it. If it works, it works. That's pretty much it for the components. Oh, I'm gonna use a 1 terabyte hard drive. Why this? It was at sale. I just need storage. This is my second Toshiba. I've not had issues. This is like a no frills drive, nothing special in here. So this is what I'm about to put in, and in there, I think it's a decent, system for your everyday use. Again, not heavy gaming. But if I wanted to, I might in the future put in a 660 GTX or 670 based off of how I feel, how I don't expect good FPS on this board, on this GPU, and a full, 1080p TV, 3D TV. But like I said, this is gonna be just for mild gaming and mostly Netflix, Hulu, media center.
God, I like how that fits in there.
Yep, it's nice and snug. So you have your extension that you can plug right in without any issues. And here's another cool thing. They made a little cutout right here at the bottom so that you don't have to worry about using an angular or any special kind of screwdriver to screw the power supply in. And one thing, I like to make sure that the power supply vents or intake is always at the bottom. In this case, has bottom intakes or vents, however your power supply is set up. That helps keep things cool. Cooler mounted, RAM is in, and if the cooler is in, that obviously means the CPU is in. But I won't be surprised if I mount the cooler without a processor. I've done weird things in my life. So this baby is ready to be dropped in. You have 2 screws on each side, so when you're trying to drop your motherboard in, you can take it out, or if you want to slide your motherboard in from the side, you can do that too. So I'm just gonna take it off for now. These standoffs are nice and tall, so if I want, I could route the fan cable underneath the motherboard. Well, we got the board in. I did have to take this fan off to make some space with the cooler and everything to drop it in. I might mount the fan back in, I might not. Actually, I will. So the rear fan is back in. I just had to take the cooler fan off temporarily so I can slide this fan in. Again, it's a tight fit, and so I was telling Bill my plan for this build is to get it water cooled. Why? Because I don't know. I have some crazy ideas and I want to try them out. So we have hit a roadblock. Just realized we're looking at the manual. So Fractal Design suggests that you use a max PSU length of 160. This is a full-size ITX, so sitting at about 170, 175. So the problem with that, even though it fits nice and snug, the problem with that is you won't be able to mount a full-size GPU. So anything which is bigger than the board, it's gonna be an issue. I know the newer 650s, they are small, so that would fit. But if anybody's wanting to run a bigger, older card like I am, the 550, that's gonna be an issue as it's not gonna fit. The power supply is gonna be on the way. So we are using a smaller 500 watt power supply. Okay, so now we have enough room for our GPU to slide in. I'm just gonna route this cable around. And I'm gonna plug the GPU in before I do anything else, just so that everything fits. Woohoo! I know your GTX 690 is about 11 inches, so it would be a snug fit. Again, I don't see anybody running a 690 in here, but just to give you an idea, you have good, almost a foot of space in there. And we also have a removable filter on the GPU side. No point having a filter if you can't remove it. The filter on the PSU side is not removable, it's just mesh. So, okay, and a little sound effect. I haven't tightened the screws, but you can't, I would say the mesh is pretty nice and dark. You can't see any wiring inside. All we have to do is tighten the put in the 4 thumb screws in. And this bad boy is ready for action. The moment of truth. You know what, with everything in there, this case is not heavy. This is not a heavy build. With the amount of hardware it has, I would say it's pretty lightweight for that. It is pretty quiet. The loudest thing in here in this case, I would say, is the power supply. And if you're using a power supply like Seasonic, those are really, really quiet with the hybrid fan controls. This is as loud as, I mean, I don't think, I can't hear the fans in the back. There's barely any noise there. We talked about the vents. Really nice to keep the power supply cool. And I think it's something that if you're sitting, at your media center or even at your desk, it would look really, really nice. Overall, this was a really fun build. Bill and I would say, had a lot of fun time working with this. We learned quite a few things. One thing was if you want to use a graphic card which is longer than 160 millimeters, don't ask me how much is that in inches. You need to use a smaller power supply, no longer than 160. If you plan to use a smaller GPU like a 650 or a 660 without the stock cooler, I know the EVGA 660s are small, then you can use a longer ATX power supply as long as you're using a off-market cooler on the 660. So a 650 with a full-size power supply will fit right in without any issues. So if you are into, want to make sure you have the quietest power supply, if you want to have a beastie system in there, you can achieve that with some tinkering around. Last I checked on Newegg, this case is retailing for $89.99 plus shipping. And for the price, I would say it's a really well-built case. I enjoyed putting the system in. It's really easy to work with. With the case, the way it opens up, you have a lot of room to get things in. And all I'm gonna say now is if you have any questions, concerns, or comments about the build, feel free to leave comments and I will try my best to answer them as much as I can. And
Hey, thank you, Jesse, for being a guest reviewer and doing the system install. It was nice to be on the other side of the camera and watch it happen. So hopefully have you in again for another project or something. Yeah,
I hope so too.
Cool. All right, guys, like he said, he's going to watch the comments, and if you have any questions, he'll try to answer them when he can. So thanks for watching.
Thank you.